Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of Off the Grid, the series where we take a look at tracks that have hosted F1 races in the past and tracks that have never been on the F1 schedule, and then see if we can beat a target lap time set to us by ChatGPT on Assetto Corsa. With 2 races in the States done, F1 finishes its 3-week stint in the Americas with a trip south to Sao Paulo. But the famous Interlagos hasn't always been the home of F1 in Brazil, and if things had gone differently, it might not be now. So let's have a look at what was and what could still have been Brazil's home of motorsport. The Autodromo Internacional Nelson Piquet, also known as Jacarecoboa, after the town it's located in western Rio de Janeiro, opened its gates in 1978. The Grand Prix circuit was awarded FIA Grade 2 status long after F1 had left, and nowadays it would take a lot to get to the Grade 1 standard. Its 5.031 kilometers or 3.126 miles winded its way beside the coast, making it the 16th longest track and its 61 laps, giving it the 11th highest lap count. A high-speed sweeping circuit with 11 turns, 7 swinging right and 4 left, with little to no runoff, a hallmark of older circuits. 2 DRS zones would aid overtaking along the pitch straight from turn 11 to the fast entry turn 1. The second along the long back straight from turn 5 to the even faster entry of turn 6. It may be the case that turn 6 is too fast an entry to have DRS on the straight beforehand. Rio hosted F1 for 9 years between 1981 and 1987, when it was deemed by F1's higher-ups that Interlagos was unsuitable due to safety concerns with the track and the surrounding area. Professor Alain Prost took 5 victories in 1982, 84, 85, 87 and 88, with hometown hero Nelson Piquet Sr. winning twice in 1983 and 1986. F1 left Rio after 1989 to return to Interlagos after it had been upgraded. The kart, now IndyCar, came to Rio from 1996 to 2000 to race at the Emerson Fittipaldi Tri-Oval. A MotoGP raced here for 10 years from 1995 to 2004, Valentino Rossi taking 6 wins. In 1982, Rio-born Nelson Piquet crossed the line first for Brabham, with the Williams of Keke Rosberg in second. Both drivers were disqualified from the race due to being underweight from using water-cooled brakes, promoting Alain Prost to victory. As both Brabham and Williams were FOCA, Formula One Constructors Association teams, in the midst of the FISCA-FOCA war, all the other FOCA teams boycotted the San Marino Grand Prix 2 races later in protest. 1988 must have been strange for Nelson Piquet. After securing his 3rd world title in 1987, the circuit in his home city had been renamed in his honor. Returning to the track bearing his name, Piquet couldn't achieve the dream victory, but finished on the podium in 3rd. Former F1 boss Bernie Ecclestone had talked about a return to Rio de Janeiro. However, in 2012, any hopes of it being here were put to rest. In preparation for the 2016 Rio Summer Olympic, the track and all motorsport facilities were demolished to make way for the Games, with the area being redeveloped into the Barra Olympic Park and home to multiple indoor and outdoor sports arenas. Maybe in the future F1 could return to Rio, possibly as a track like Sochi, which was once an Olympic venue too, and in the style of Miami, wrapping around sports complexes. But for now, let's see what modern F1 could do at the original circuit. ChatGPT has said a 1:10 to a 1:15 is possible. It's been way off in the last 3 episodes, but let's get into Assetto Corsa and see if it's right this time, and if we can hit the target of a 1:12.5. So as we start this session, we join it about halfway through our first flying lap and into turn 4. Carry a bit too much speed and go for a bit of a spin, so not the most ideal way to start this session. But as we start our next flying lap, it's not going to really get much better, as through the final turn we get on the power a bit too early and lose the back end and go for a half spin. But on this occasion we're going to keep going and we're going to go on our first full lap of the Rio de Janeiro circuit. Into turn 1, a very fast right-hander, you carry a lot of speed through there, and then into turn 2, a left-hander, once again a long left-hander and carrying a lot of speed, making sure not to run too wide on the exit. Turn 3, flat out, easy in these cars, and then into turn 4, as we saw, it's easy to carry too much speed. And then into turn 5, the hairpin, very bumpy part of the track there, so it's really easy to lock up, and then a lot of understeer through that hairpin, which leads on to the back straight. of a jump cow as we run down into the very fast left-hander of turn 6. Braking just before the 50, down 1 gear into 7, then straight back on the throttle, carry a lot of speed through the very long corner, and then flicking it into turn 7, and then flicking it back left for turn 8 in 5th gear as we run up now to turn 9. Very tight corner, we get a bit of a snap there, wanting to get back on the throttle nice and early. And then turn 10, one of the toughest corners on the track for me. You want to carry the speed, but you can't run too wide. As you can see there's no runoff. As now into the final turn. Turn 11, we run a bit too wide there, have another big moment, almost spin again. But we managed to hold it, and we're going to come across the line to set a 125.3 for our first flying lap. But we keep going since it's a short track and haven't dialed in the setup with the ERS deployment yet. We have a lot of deployment left and the tyres aren't too bad. So in turn 2 now, Carlos Pache, which Interlagos is named after, so there's a corner here named after that man as well, a very famous Brazilian race car driver, as we set a purple sector 1. Again, very tricky turn 4 and then over the bumps into turn 5. This time, not understeering as much and getting on the throttle nice and early, as we're about 6/10 up as we open DRS down the back straight. And this time going to try and carry a bit more speed through turn 6 and braking a bit later there. Tried to take it in 8, but we started to understeer a bit wide, so down into 7, over the bump on the run into turn 7, and then flicking again into turn 8. I want to try and brake nice and late here, hopefully not get a moment like we did on the previous lap. This time keeping it in 4th gear, have a bit of a wobble getting on the power, but we hold it nicely, and then through the second to last corner, carrying the speed, staying on the track, and now into the final turn. Down into 5th gear and then into 4th, just trying to stay in a higher gear so we don't lose the back end like we did on the previous lap. As we cross the finish line, this is a 123.5 and improve our personal best. So after going back to the pit, getting a new set of boots, we're on another flying lap here through turn 2. We're trying to get on the power a bit too early and we run out of road, just carrying a lot too much speed. So that lap's over, and then we continue it on and just on the next corner once again. Not really concentrating and just going off the track and wrecking the car in the wall. We skip ahead then to just about 17 minutes left in the session. We set a new personal best of a 122.2 and we carry on for another lap after that one, doing consecutive laps once again, as on the exit of turn 1, running right to the edge of the track there and through turn 2, Carlos Pache. This time, unlike the previous time we saw going through here, we managed to keep it on the black stuff, flat out through turn 3, and then once again keeping it on the road through turn 4 and into turn 5, locking up a bit over the bumps as it's very easy to do, and getting a nice run through the hairpin onto the straight. Opening DRS as we're about 6/10 up as we run down through the second sector and into my favourite part of the track. Again, carrying a lot of speed, carrying a bit more speed now, not braking as much into turn 6, and then a lot of speed through turn 7. A bit wide to turn 8, a long way off the apex, but we still managed to carry good speed and stay on the track through the hairpin of turn 9 then, keeping it nice and tidy. Through the second to last corner then, we carry a bit too much speed and we run wide off the grass, off the track onto the grass. This lap is invalidated, but we're going to finish it off anyway, get a good run through the final turn, and even after going off the track we were going to improve by about a second to a 121.2. After this we start to have a few struggles running wide once again at the second to last turn and off the track, this time losing a lot more time than we did the last time we did it, and then on the last corner again carrying too much speed and running off into the grass. A few minutes later then through turn 4, just like we did at the start of the session, carrying a bit too much speed and spinning off into the barrier and damaging our car. And then a bit later once again coming through turn 6 as we head into turn 7, carrying too much speed, not enough downforce at the moment, and losing the back end and going for a spin. And after this spent, way too much time just trying to get the car back onto the track. And then when eventually did get onto the track, with very overheated tires through the next turn, we go for another spin. So wanted to reset to the pits then, but I misclicked and actually restarted the session. So we're not going to have an accurate delta for the last couple of minutes of this session. So we're not really going to know how we're doing compared to our current personal best. But with that anyway, we get going once again and the struggles continue, carrying too much speed on the exit of turn 1 into the barrier and wrecking the car and the engine. So really big one there. And then once again, through the final turn, trying to get on the power too early and going for a spin. So after that, we return to the pits to make some final changes for our final lap of the session with 20 seconds left on the clock. Into turn 1, braking down to 6th gear. We run a bit wide, but we carry a lot of speed and use all the track on the exit. Into turn 2, braking later than we were earlier on in the session in 4th gear. Keeping the throttle on about halfway through that turn and getting on the power nice and early. Still flat out through the left-hander of 3 and then into turn 4. Carrying as much speed as it can, having a bit of a snap, but luckily the car stays pointing the right direction as into the hairpin. We get a pretty decent exit as we open DRS down the junk cow straight for the final time into turn 6. I want to brake really late here for turn 6. Down to 7th and straight back on the throttle, barely even lifting. We run a bit too wide compared to what we wanted, and then into turn 7 we clip the grass on the entry, go for a spin into the barrier and it sends us upside down. So unfortunately we didn't get to finish our final lap in the session. But after that I decided to just keep doing a few more laps because I was really enjoying the track. And I felt like that last lap wasn't a fair way to end this section of the video. So I'm going to show you my best lap after the session and you can enjoy it with all the lovely engine sounds. So unfortunately, once again, we weren't able to beat the time set to us by ChatGPT. But in all honesty, the laps I did in that session weren't great and definitely not the best that I could do. As you could see with the last lap that I did after the session, that was already a couple of seconds quicker. So with a bit more time on the track and a bit of a more dialed in setup, I definitely think we could have got at least a couple of seconds closer to the upper limit of the target set to us of a 1 minute 15. In terms of the track itself, it's very fun to drive. I love the tracks that are really fast and flown and you have to be really precise to nail the lines so that you can carry the speed in the corners that follow on from each other. But in terms of racing, I don't think it would be great for Formula One. There isn't really any heavy braking zones to try and make overtakes, and there isn't many areas that really stand out as areas that would be good for any side-by-side racing. So personally, I think for the Brazilian Grand Prix, it should stay in Interlagos for at least the time being until maybe another track is built in Rio that could be better for racing. But that's it for this episode of Off the Grid. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe. But until the next one, thanks for watching. See you then.